It has been a nightmare start to the season for Aaron Nola as the Phillies pitcher has not lived up to the expectations that his contract dictates or the player that the team needs him to be. Now, we know the backstory, the track record of Aaron Nola, who has been a horse for this Phillies franchise for several years. A homegrown talent who has far exceeded expectations to this point, but has not looked good out of the gates this season. I want to dive into exactly what is going wrong, how significant these problems are for the Phillies' perspective and for Aaron Nola directly, and sort of the short term and long term effects that I do think this could have on this Phillies team. So to dive right into it, I first want to just highlight exactly what the production has been. That Nola has pitched in 5 games, lost all 5 of them, allowed 6 home runs, tallied 31 strikeouts to his 34 hits. That comes out to a 10.9 hits per 9 inning, a 6.43 ERA, a 1.607 whip. Not what you want to see from a 31-year-old, and beyond just the raw statistics, the process is concerning. There is a dip in velocity. There is not the same bite that you're hoping for on some of these pitches coming out of his hand, and obviously hitters are teeing off as a result. Now, to Nola's credit, after last night, which was another loss to the New York Mets there, where Nola I'll give him credit from last night that I thought he battled through it. He lit up 2 home runs pretty early on. Soto also certainly could have took him yard, and one that was like a sliver foul that they even ran the bases. They had to review it, all that kind of thing. So Nola is getting hit hard is the biggest problem here. But he did sit down and talk to Corey Seidman of NBC. Do want to dive into exactly what was said in this interview and kind of talk from Nola's perspective. And he starts with, it's pretty brutal. Nola addresses his velocity dip and 0-5 start. And as someone who has watched him pitch to this point this year, I would agree with this assessment. Now, to dive into what was said, I'm going to start off with kind of the bare bones of this article here. And Corey writes, the season is less than a month old, but Monday night was emblematic of how it's been for Aaron Nola in 2025. Loud contact early, lots of base runners, high wire acts, a settling in period, and then more frustration. Nola would have had a 6-inning, 2-run quality start, but manager Rob Thomson sent him out there for the 7th at 89 pitches because the Phillies trailed by 2 runs and had a short bullpen. Nola's fastball velocity, already down, was even lower in that 7th inning to the 86 to 89 miles per hour range. Quote, I think it's probably an early season thing, he said. Feel like I do start out with a lower velocity when it's cold, and then it starts to tick up when it gets a little bit hotter. Hope that's the case, but just got to keep competing out there. Commanding the ball is the most important thing for me. Nola's 4-seam fastball and sinker are both down 2 miles per hour this season to 91 and 90, respectively. It's not the first or second time this has happened. Just last April, Nola's velocity was at this same range before averaging 92.8 miles per hour after May. Now, as far as the velocity conversation, Aaron Nola is not a power pitcher. As he alluded to in this quote here, that he is a guy that control is king, that he has to paint his pitches properly, set up his pitches properly, be on the same page with JT Realmuto and have kind of a clear plan of attack here. And he's been pretty masterful at it over the large bulk of his career. I will say it does feel a little bit different to me this time, that just watching it come off his arm, it doesn't feel like he's like warming up for the season. It feels like he's not getting there. Now, granted, Taijuan Walker is a perfect example, and I don't want to compare this directly to Aaron Nola here, but we had seen his velocity dip for several seasons to this year, and all of a sudden it is back this year. There are things you can do to strengthen the arm. That's not the biggest concern that I have with Nola, his velocity specifically here. But to this same point, what I do think is pretty emblematic of this Phillies team, the fact that he did step out in that 7th inning, return to the mound at 89 pitches. Why was that the case? Because nobody in the bullpen is capable of being trusted at this point. And that's where the decisions being made by Rob Thomson are being forced by the personnel at hand. If you were just playing this in an ideal baseball situation, you certainly turn that game over to the bullpen. Now, granted, as Jose Ruiz steps into this game, he gets absolutely murdered and lets up more runs. So it was the proper decision from Rob Thomson. I get it, but that's still a problem with this Phillies team overall. Now, to bring this back to Nola, do want to continue with the article here, which writes, he and the Phillies are hoping that's the case once again. But what if it isn't? What if the 198 innings he's averaged over the last 6 non-shortened seasons are beginning to catch up? Quote, got to keep competing, man, Nola said. I've got to throw a lot of innings, try to limit the runs and compete. I know I haven't done that so far this year, but I've got to command all my other pitches and go out and try to win the game. I can't control the results, but I can control the walks and getting ahead of guys. Quote, I'm not getting the results. When I do get a ground ball, it's going through holes. My fastball is not where I need it to be right now, and I hope the velocity starts to kick up here soon. Curveball, changeup, felt pretty good tonight, but when the ball's over the plate, they're not missing it right now. Nola missed with a low and in curveball to leadoff man Francisco Lindor in the bottom of the first. It was tattooed 376 feet to give the Mets an early lead. Nola missed right down the middle on a 2-0 count to Jesse Winker to begin the second. It was a hit even harder for a solo home run. He put 5 men on base over the next 4 innings, but stranded them all before 2 early base runners ended his night in the 7th. Both scored when Jose Ruiz gave up a 3-run shot to Lindor. The Phillies scored 4 runs in the 9th, but lost 5-4. And a quick side note on going down in the 9th, just absolutely brutal to go down on back-to-back strikeouts by Trey Turner and Bryce Harper. And Bryce specifically, I hated the plate approach. It felt like he was ready to be the hero when sometimes, and I get it, like that's the spot that you're in there, but you just have to relax. Don't have to swing for the fences in every single situation. I know one swing can win you that game, but we obviously see the results when that does not happen. So maddening how that went down. But to swing it back to kind of the Nola and the overall conversation here, let's keep diving into this article. So the final part of this from Corey Seidman, he continues, "It's frustrating for sure," Nola said. "I'm 0-5 with a 6.5 ERA. It's pretty brutal, but I'm going to keep working and try to have good weeks leading up to my next start, preparing as best as I can and trying to stay healthy. Keep believing that the things will turn around soon." Thomson said he isn't worried about Nola because he's seen him pitch through diminished velocity in the past. It's not as if Nola's arsenal is based around throwing 96, but he needs more life on the heater. Two of his many weapons are the four-seam fastball just above the zone and the two-seamer that freezes lefties. Both can be easier to time and lay off when they're 89-91 as opposed to 92-94. Quote, "It's just a little bit more jump at the end. I think that's the biggest thing for me, especially with my four-seam. I need that late jump. I'm going to go out and hit and sit 94, 95. That's just never been me. So I need the late jump before it gets to the plate. But command is always number one for me." It doesn't help that the Phillies have scored 5 runs for Nola in his 5 starts. Aside from feeling like his location must be perfect, he's had no room for error. He'll be back in the lab this week working on command and trying to find that little bit more jump that can make a world of difference. He's grunted more than ever before on Monday night, trying to add a little more oomph to the fastball. Nola's next start will be on Saturday evening at Wrigley Field. It would be fortuitous if the wind is blowing in. "I'm not worried about him," Trey Turner said. "He's been such a good pitcher for such a long time. People are going to go through their ups and downs. It's been a tough start, but not worried about him." Now, to this point about the control, it is absolutely that late command that makes Aaron Nola the dominant pitcher that he has been to this point. That little late bite there, and he's not getting it. And the grunting, by the way, was very notable through the TV. You sound like Maria Sharapova on the mound right there when he's just throwing everything to every single pitch. And I just don't really think that is sustainable from a season-long standpoint or a long-term standpoint. Let's not forget the contract that this guy signed just fairly recently here in the second season of a 7-year, $172 million deal. And that does bring me to the conversation of what if it does not come back for Aaron Nola. We're still talking about not just 26, but 27, 28, 29, and 2030 that Aaron Nola will be on the books, and this Phillies team is banking on him to be a capable arm. Now, when looking at the entirety of the Phillies staff here, they are in a better spot than probably any other part of this team. That we know what we have in a guy like Christopher Sanchez. We know what we have in Zack Wheeler, who is the ace of this team. Ranger Suarez still working his way back here. Taijuan Walker, not a guy that I have a ton of belief in, but for the time being is holding up his end of the bargain. And of course, Andrew Painter is the biggest storyline here. With the bullpen issues, I do wonder if Ranger ends up slotting into like a pretty significant relief role, if that is the cure to fix things here. But at the same time, in that conversation, Ranger Suarez is on a contract here and is going to want to get paid like a starting pitcher at the ends. And as he is now under Boras agency, that's going to be kind of a delicate conversation to have from all parties there. But to keep it about Aaron Nola, he is a guy that has to be an innings eater for this Phillies team. That is who he has been for the entirety of his career, and that is not the guy that has shown up to this point. Now, to a little bit of his defense here, like last night, the reason that they lost to the Mets was not Aaron Nola's fault. Did he obviously help the cause by giving up home runs, getting hit hard for sure, but to give a peek at the run support that he has got while he's in the game, shout out to our very own Luke Arcani, 0 runs, 1 run, 0 runs, 4 runs, and 0 runs. He did enough to give the Phillies a chance last night. The bats did not do the rest of the damage there, but moving forward, we still have to see a better version of Aaron Nola. I don't love that he is being added to this laundry list of concerns with this Phillies team this soon in the season. So often, and sure, Nola has had his clunkers, that there tends to be that one inning once in a while that just completely gets away from him every few starts there. But in the large part of the sample size, he's been an underappreciated and really solid pitcher for this Phillies franchise. I hope that guy is still in there, and these are just some growing pains at the earlier part of the season, but that has officially been a bit of a concern that has climbed on my radar. Ultimately, we can only wait and see from here. Nola is going to keep battling on his end, and as I mentioned, this is not a problem that goes away anytime soon. There are several more seasons we're going to have to continue to have these conversations, and when I talk about it looking different, the walks just can't happen. That's never been Aaron Nola, and it has been this year. Walking 4 guys, walking multiple guys in a game, which has become a repeat offender of already this year. There are some things that internally he needs to get in the lab and fix, and the Phillies team desperately needs that to occur. But ultimately, we will see how things shape out from here. It is still very early in this marathon of the baseball season, less than 15% through the entirety of the year, so not ready to fully hit the panic button yet, but Aaron Nola has officially raised an eyebrow on my end. Let me know what you guys think in the comments and how worried you are about Aaron Nola. Do want to hear those thoughts below. Your overall level of optimism that he returns to the version of him that this team needs him to be. As always, appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning in. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you have not already. Drop a like on this video here. I'll be back talking to you next time right here on Phillies Digest. Peace.